episode of The Environment Matters, a television program by the Environmental Agency to tell you, our viewers, of the roles and responsibility of the EPA. Today, we will be having a conversation on the liquid goal. That's correct, we are talking about water. And to drive this conversation, we are going to be talking to two very intelligent and beautiful young ladies. That is Miss Karen Watson and Miss Michele Nurse. So, welcome to the program, ladies. I know this is the first time I'm actually interviewing both of you. Karen, you're no stranger to this platform. So, before we go any further, I'd like to ask both of you to just tell us a little bit about yourselves and what exactly it is that you do at the EPA. So, we can start with you, Karen.
All right. Thank you for having me here, Ladonna. It's a pleasure. So my name is Karen Watson. I am currently within the Technical Services Department of the EPA. I'm a Senior Environmental Officer and also the lead for Water Quality and Hazardous Waste Management currently. So we focus a lot on, our main focus is water quality management, monitoring, sampling.
Thanks for having me, Ladonna. It's good to be here. My name is Michele SWANSON Nurse. I am in the Technical Services section of the EPA with responsibilities for research and development, and specifically water quality and hazardous waste. I assist Karen with all the water quality.
So, to kickstart our conversation, the month of March particularly is, well, we celebrate World Water Day, which is a global celebration around the world. So that's why we thought that, to have such a topic for this month in particular was going to be a very interesting thing. So, as we start off our conversation, one of the things I wanted to talk about was clean water and sanitation, which is a sustainable goal number 6 specifically, and that's a part of our UN agenda for 2030. For those who are not very familiar with the Sustainable Development Goals, there are actually 17 goals that the UN is trying to accomplish by 2030. You could check our website for more information on that, or you can visit the UN's website. So with all that has been happening throughout the years regarding the UN Sustainable Goals, do you guys see reduction in things like our poverty, injustice, inequality, water being made clean and sanitation improving, and why do we really need a goal for water and sanitation? So I guess we can start with you, Karen.
All right. So the saying goes, water is life, and it's essential to life. It's very important for life and living. We need it for drinking purposes, of course. We need it to produce food, right? We need it for hygiene, and without water, sanitation and hygiene they're difficult to achieve, right? So the SDG 6 goal, for me, it's important because it focuses a lot on clean, consistent and sustainable clean water supply being provided, and the effective sanitation services that will help to provide for people around the world. So it's key and it's important for us to maintain a healthy living.
That's absolutely correct. And we, despite how old we are or where we are, what status we may have, we can all do our parts, particularly to ensure clean water and good sanitation. Let's take a look at our liquid goal. When I first started to develop the topic, one of the things that came to mind is like liquid goal. I wonder what our audience, when they hear it, what are they going to think? So liquid gold, be it water. Michele, could you speak briefly to water as a resource and how important it is to us as humans, to the environment at large?
Well, Ladonna, as my friend Karen rightly told us, water is life, right? Without it, we would cease to exist. And Guyana is blessed. We are the land of many waters. And as you pointed out, that is where, truthfully, our liquid gold lies. Because without it, life would cease to exist here in Guyana. And as such, we have to realize that only 3% of the world's freshwater resources are available for human use. And that's in the forms of rivers, lakes, and underground water aquifers. So here in Guyana's context now, we need water for agricultural, industrial, household, and recreational purposes. And currently, Guyana uses about 94% of freshwater resources for agricultural purposes. This is obvious, we have to feed ourselves, right? Only 4%, about 4.2% is used by the municipalities, which means that's for household use. And in the industries use about 1.4%. This leads us to think what's going to happen in a few years when Guyana's economy continues to grow. The amount of water used by the industrial sector will obviously increase. So we need to realize and care for and preserve our water resources here in Guyana.
That is a lot of information, and I particularly like the fact that you've given us some statistics to think about. I'm sure a lot of persons weren't exactly aware that we might be thinking that we're using more water when we talk about freshwater resources as compared to the other industries. But it's good to know that we're not the ones that are taking most of
the
it.
water.
Taking most of it, but that still doesn't mean that we get the opportunity to waste water.
No.
All right. So with all of that, then there's definitely pressure on our freshwater resources. So let's discuss what some of the main focus in terms of the pressure be it. So with the agriculture sector, is there a particular part within that sector where pressure is placed, especially when it comes to our freshwater resource?
Climate change is one of the great water stressors globally. And in Guyana's context, take, for example, Region 9. Now, we know that climate change has caused our rainfall patterns to change. This has resulted in shorter, more intense rainfall and longer dry periods. So what has happened in places like Region 9 and other hinterland areas is that when they get drought, they now have, and the rivers dry up, the source of water has been reduced. So they have to turn to underground sources of aquifers for water, which means they have to dig more wells and they have to go deeper. And so with this comes other challenges to deal with, such as the recharge rate. Is the water quality being maintained? Because they have increased agricultural production. So first of all, the challenge is to get the water. So that means they have to dig more wells. And then we now have to monitor the quality of the water because of agricultural uses in that area, adding contamination and pollution. So that's one area of pressure on our water resources. Quantity, and then trying to maintain the proper quality.
Yeah. And I know, one of the things which we're going to definitely talk about is maintaining the quality of water. And, as much as we're thinking that, okay, we're using way less water resources than other sectors, we also have to think about the discharges that are coming from the different sectors, be it our household as residents, our industry, our infrastructural sectors. So with the addition of effluent discharge into our waterways. It can definitely, as you mentioned, Michelle, lead to water pollution or contamination of water. So ensuring the water quality is preserved is definitely something that I know the agency focuses on, among other sister agencies. So, like I said, with that, what specifically is the role of the EPA with regards to the management of freshwater resources?
All right, Ladonna. So the EPA has a number of tools that we utilize to manage our freshwater resources. And when we're speaking about freshwater resources, we refer to inland water resources. But in addition to that, we also look at monitoring and managing our coastal water resources. That's the oceans, right? So we use the Environmental Protection Water Quality Regulations 2000. That's specifically used to monitor and manage our freshwater resources, specifically our inland waters and coastal waters, right? So essentially projects, activities that would discharge effluent is called wastewater, right? So if you are a manufacturing industry, the oil and gas sector, once you are discharging any wastewater, that is water that would have been generated after you would have gone through a process, a chemical process, a physical process, and you're discharging it, right? You would need to be authorized with EPA. In addition to that, waters that are generated from smaller facilities, we also have to, or those that are currently operating, we need you to be registered with the EPA. So if you have a potential activity, a potential project that you would want to discharge any wastewater, you would need to be authorized with the EPA. If you're currently operating and you're discharging wastewater, you need to be registered with the EPA. We need to have you in our systems in order for us to monitor you adequately.
Okay, so this would definitely go for your different sectors, not particularly residential.
No,
Okay.
we're not focused on households. We focus on the manufacturing sector, specifically industrial sector, the mining sector, agricultural sector, oil and gas. Very important. So we focus on the high-end sectors.
Great. So do not worry, residents, we're not coming to you to check on your discharge from your systems. All right. So with the Environmental Protection Agency's water quality regulation, is the agency or Guyana at large guided by any other agreement that provides standards or parameters in how we treat our freshwater resources? Michele?
So the agency is currently party to the Cartagena Convention on the protection and development of the marine environment in the wider Caribbean region. Now, Guyana ratified this convention in 2010. The convention focuses on and promotes the prevention, reducing, and controlling pollution to the marine environment, whether it be from land-based sources, ships, or air pollution.
Okay, perfect.
This convention promotes stringent international best standards, practices on how to preserve and protect our freshwater resources.
Great. So I like it when we have ties to international standards or agreements where we're kept on stream as to what is needed. Because I guess now we don't exactly consider ourselves a small country, that we're now on the map because of the developing oil and gas sector. So that's on point. Great. So on that note, we'll take a quick break and we'll be right back to the Environment Matters.
Come around, please.
Morning. My name is Deborah. I just want to get some information.
Good morning. I am Odessa Duncan, Senior Environmental Officer. How may I assist you today?
Tell me something. They got this man next door by me breaking on this big building, and it's bare asbestos in the roof. I could remember hearing on your TV program that asbestos is dangerous to human health and the environment.
This is correct. The Environmental Protection Act states that any person or facility that is storing, treating, transporting, and or disposing of hazardous waste material must be authorized by the EPA to do so.
Oh, but it's now I'm really hearing about this hazardous waste thing. Tell me something more.
Hazardous waste are waste material with properties that are dangerous or capable of having a harmful effect on human health and the environment, including things like paint, fertilizers, and pesticides, waste oil, and asbestos. These things have the potential to cause cancer, birth defects, kidney failure, and reproductive impairment, with children being at the highest risk. The environmental authorization in this case gives the legal right to transport, store, and dispose of this material in accordance with the EP Act Chapter 2005 Laws of Guyana. This ensures you and your operation and your process is safe for the environment and human health.
So you mean to tell me that all them leftover Christmas paint that I got on in my kitchen sink, I need authorization from EPA to get rid of it?
No, Miss Deborah. These items, once used for household purposes, does not require environmental authorization from the EPA. However, you should still take necessary steps to ensure that these materials are stored and disposed of in an environmentally safe manner.
Thank you so much for the information. I go in and tell him that he needs an environmental authorization. Thank you.
At the Environmental Protection Agency, we believe that the environment is everybody's business. We can start caring for our planet by becoming more environmentally friendly in our everyday actions. Here's what you can do. Dispose of waste in a garbage bin. Clean our drains, yards, and carpets regularly. Take a reusable shopping bag to the market. Support local butchers and farmers to reduce packaged waste. Plant a kitchen garden, trees, and flowers. Compost your organic waste. Conserve water and electricity. Carry a reusable water bottle. These little acts are good for your health and that of the environment. Remember, healthy people work better and achieve more, and together, small actions make a big difference. For further information on how you can help, please contact the Environmental Protection Agency, EPA, Ganges Street, Sophia, or telephone us at 225-5467. You can also visit our website, epagana.org, or our Facebook and Instagram pages.
Are you involved in a business or thinking about starting one? Do you know there may be environmental impacts from business activities? According to the Environmental Protection Act of 1996, businesses such as gas stations, rice mills, large-scale agriculture and poultry farms, large-scale mining and forestry operations, hotels, and resorts must be authorized. Persons proposing any of these activities need to submit an application for environmental authorization to the EPA.
Do you have an environmental complaint? Then the Environmental Protection Agency wishes to advise that you can report an environmental complaint at the agency via one of the following. You can call our 24-hour hotline number at 225-5469, or you can drop us an email at complaints@epaguyana.org. Or you can message us on our Facebook page at EPA Guyana, or you can message us directly on Instagram at EPAGY. Please note, when submitting an environmental complaint, you would need to submit the following: name of complainant, that is the person who is making the complaint, the address of that person, a contact number, as well as the alleged polluter, a name for them, or a name of their business, their location, and the nature of the complaint. For further information, you can visit our agency's head office at Ganges Street, Sophia, or you can visit one of the regional offices to make your environmental complaint. You can visit our WIM office in the Quarantine or our Linden office in the Lynn Building, Mackenzie, Linden. Please note that all information collected from the public will be treated with the strictest confidence. However, complainants should be willing to attend court and testify should the matter require legal action.
Welcome back to this episode of The Environment Matters. I am your moderator, Ladonna Kissoon. So in studio with me, we have been chatting with Miss Karen Watson and Miss Michele Nurse, both senior environmental officers from the Environmental Protection Agency, working in our technical services and research and development unit. And we've been talking a little bit about our liquid goal. So to continue our conversation, we are going to be diving in to one of the main focuses of the EPA, and that's our complaints management. So ladies, with the agency having responsibility to manage environmental complaints and more so to ensure compliance, how exactly is the agency managing the aspect of water pollution?
All right. So, the EPA, we do have a responsibility, specifically our department. We monitor, we address complaint matters issues. So persons who may complain to the EPA regarding somebody dumping something in the waterway, dumping some liquid, or there's a discharge of some waste into the waterway, we respond. We address the complaint. We conduct a site inspection, right, to validate the complaint that is actually occurring. We try to identify the source of the discharge. We try to identify what is the discharge, right, in order to recommend measures that may have to be implemented by the perpetrator to rectify, to correct the situation in terms of cleaning up the waterway that the discharge has occurred in. We may also charge or fine the perpetrator of the pollution by, I think it's up to 500,000. We can charge them or fine them. They can also be imprisoned, but of course it goes through the courts.
Yes.
Right. So the EPA addresses complaint matters regarding water pollution. Another aspect is that when we're on site, we sometimes conduct field tests, right? We maybe take a sample, right, of the waters that the pollution has occurred in. We would sometimes send it to a lab to be tested to verify what are the pollutants in the waterway. And we can also utilize some of the equipment we have at the EPA to conduct in situ testing to verify the condition or quality of the water that the polluter, alleged polluter, would have discharged the waste into. So that's how we go about.
Great. And I know as part of our permitting process, the agency does compliance inspections, and we ensure that the level of compliance is there for developers, and developers, they also have the responsibility to self-monitor. And I know within our annual reports, those developers are tied to submit things like air quality and water quality monitoring. So yeah, that's definitely something that we practice to ensure the level of compliance is always attained by those developers.
Yes.
All right. So with the mindset of discharges getting into our waterways, what would be some of the recommendations put forward, to facilities or to even household users which may discharge effluent into our water bodies? And let's just clarify that those water bodies does not necessarily have to be the large rivers and the creeks, but it can also be as simple as our drains. Not to get into to add a little bit about what you guys are going to talk about. But I know one of the things that we often speak about is fat deposits. You know, when you clean your chicken and stuff. But I'm gonna give you guys that leeway. So Michele, we could have this conversation with you.
Well, in this context, water bodies refer to reservoirs, lakes, ponds, creeks, canals, drains, and as a regulatory body, ideally, we would want facilities that are discharging in effluent into these drains to register with us, so that you could be authorized, so that we can know what you're putting into the drain and help you to meet parameters, acceptable parameters, so that you could discharge into these drains in an authorized fashion. Because it's important for us to all realize that eventually all these internal drains, gutters, and canals eventually lead to our rivers and thence to the oceans. And so whatever we're putting into these drains eventually may wind up in our food sources, such as fishes or plants, such, and the fish may eat the plants, the wildlife may eat the plants, whatever, but eventually our own dirty habits may come back to haunt us. So I would urge facilities and other industries that discharge into these drains to please come in and be authorized.
If I can just
Go ahead, Karen.
Yes, Karen.
If I can just add to that too, a lot of the restaurants that operate, the grease, the fatty substances that they would generate after cooking, sometimes they wash it down the drain, and sometimes that ends up in our into our waterways, and of course causes a lot of eutrophication. It actually blocks the sunlight from entering the waters, which affects our biological organisms such as the fish. So in cases like that, especially for restaurants, we would encourage you to install grease traps to prevent fats from getting into your drains, right? Install grease traps, right? In particular for the larger industrial operators, if you're dealing with a lot of oil or petroleum products, we encourage you to install oil water separators, right, which essentially traps any oil substances and allows the other waters without the oils to be discharged into the environment. So that's an additional recommendation for operators out there.
And I know with the, like I was making mention, you know, for household purposes or residential users, to actually practice the same thing. So, you know, when you're cleaning your meat and stuff like that, do not let the fat deposits go down your drain pipe, because it will definitely get into our waterways, cause harm not only to the water but also to our biodiversity. And it's funny that I think during this period in schools, students are being taught about the food chain and the food web. So definitely, if you're gonna have influence with regards to biodiversity, or you know, or fishes or plants, it definitely interrupts our food chains. So that's just something to think about. So I am making the assumption that a lot of times people look at water, you know, be it the creek or a river or coming out of the tap, and they probably ask themselves, is this safe? How could we tell how safe water, or the water that we're using, or even seeing how safe it is? How could we tell?
Well, water that is fit for human consumption ideally should be clear, have no foul odor or funny taste. But still, we would have to do scientific analysis on the water and treat it before we use it. And this is what GWI does to provide us with potable water. But we at the EPA, we are interested in keeping our water resources, such as rivers and lakes, safe and healthy for biological purposes, maintain the biological integrity so that our fishes and aquatic life can survive. So we have to maintain the rivers, hopefully in pristine conditions, so that it can be used sometimes by households in hinterland regions, and maintain the life for the fishes and the aquatic organisms.
Okay, so there you go. That's exactly how you can tell how safe your water resources are. And not to worry, as Michele mentioned, GWI also has that responsibility to test that water before you actually go about using it for whatever means of consumption. So with testing of water, the EPA recently was in the news feature about the procurement and use of new equipment at the agency. So with the use of this equipment, what are some of the parameters that the equipment is capable of testing? Karen, we could start with you.
So the EPA has, for the purposes of field testing for water quality, the EPA has a multi-parameter meter, right? That tests basic analytes or potential pollutants in waterways. It tests for pH, it tests for total dissolved solid, salinity, conductivity, right? Those are the basic parameters that the equipment is utilized for testing in waterways. The agency, we're currently building, right? So we will be acquiring more equipment soon to increase our capacity and capabilities, and also to increase the frequency with which we monitor our waterways. So we are at the point where we are trying to improve and also to expand. With regards to, of course, we're hiring more staff in addition to the acquisition of more equipment.
Yes, that's great. Luckily, I have been privy to some of the training that was recently conducted with the staff on the use of these water quality equipment. So with equipment, we definitely need to have standards in place to be able to use our data collected against. So does the EPA have standards that are used for water quality?
Yes, we do. We have local standards. Through the Guyana National Bureau of Standards, in collaboration, we would have partnered or jointly developed the Guyana National Bureau of Standards interim guidelines for effluent discharge into the environment. Those are the standards, we call them. The standards basically indicate the potential pollutants, right, that may get into our waterways, and the points, their quantities. So each pollutant, for example, we say pH, we say alkalinity, we say TDS. So each of these parameters, there's a point, there's a threshold at which they function. So if a manufacturing company is they're manufacturing some product, the water that they're processing to develop or make a product, it's passing through a system, eventually it will be discharged, right? So once it's discharged, there are pollutants within that wastewater that will get into the environment, right? So now the GNBS standards, right, allow us to see whether the pollutants that are being discharged by this company go above a certain threshold or limit. So above this threshold, it means we will have problems.
Yes.
It means that fish may be killed above this threshold. It means that a fish cannot survive with a certain amount of pollutants within the water body, right? So what the standards allow us to do is to monitor, right, these manufacturers to ensure that whatever they're discharging into the environment does not go above the required threshold, right, to ensure that there's survival of our aquatic organisms within our water bodies.
Definitely. All right. So the agency, as always, we've been doing a lot and taking on a lot. So with the use of our equipment, we're definitely able to ensure the level of compliance, respond to complaint matters at hand. So one of the things I know that we also do is collaborative work. So can you speak to some of the collaborations that we would have done with other agencies, with projects or initiatives that would have spoken to the improvement of our water quality here in Guyana?
Okay, so I'll speak to our sister agencies who also have a responsibility for the monitoring and management of water in Guyana. So because Guyana is vast.
Yes, it is.
And the majority of our landmass, we have a lot of water, land of many waters. So we need help. We cannot do it alone. So we currently collaborate with the GWI, right? They're responsible for, of course, potable water. We also collaborate with Hydromet Department of the Ministry of Agriculture. They have a responsibility for the management of our groundwater and surface water. In addition to, we also collaborate with the Ministry of Public Works. Of course, the infrastructure you see, of course, within our landscape that the waters pass through, they have a responsibility for. So in cases where there's an issue of pollution or there's an issue of fish kill, and the Ministry of Health too. We collaborated with the Ministry of Health.
Yeah.
They have a responsibility for ensuring that there's healthy and safe and clean water in addition to GWI. So what we do in cases where there's an emergency, I remember one time years back there was fish kill within a region 7, I think, and the EP had to respond. And in addition to EPA's response, we had to collaborate with the Ministry of Health, because apparently persons were getting sick by drinking the waters within these regions. We also collaborated with I think it's GWI we also collaborated with, right? So we did a joint inspection. The EPA's role, we would have of course tried to test the waters to see if there's any pollutant within those waters. And of course Ministry of Health would have looked at the health of the persons within the area that would have already consumed the water to ensure that they receive medication and what recommend measures that they may have to put in place to sustain their health. So the EPA would have had to come up with what was the cause of the fish kill, right, by testing the waters, and come to a conclusion on how best to what recommendations would be best to rectify the situation with regards to the quality of the water, right? So that's just one example of how we collaborate with our sister agencies to monitor and manage our water quality specifically.
Okay, great. So this, like you rightfully said, this was a little way back, and particularly it was for Region 7. So I am making the assumption, because I don't think I was employed yet with the EPA, that you guys would have definitely brought that matter to a form of resolution.
Yes.
So there you go. That's exactly how we work along with our sister agencies to ensure good water quality or safe water quality for our residents and Guyanese at large. So as we wrap up our episode, are there any final thoughts that you'd like to share with the general public on the value of water resource? So Michele, we can start with you.
Oh, well, my favorite is water conservation. So I would tell you to please conserve water. 2 very basic and easy things to do is turn off the water when you're brushing your teeth and to fix your leaky taps and toilets. Just a little bit goes a long way.
All right, and Karen?
All right, Ladonna. So the world at large, a lot of wars are fought over oil and gas. And I was reading, in the future, wars will be fought over water and our water resources. And Guyana has a vast amount of water, right? It's water can be depleted, right? Sometimes it may not last forever. So it's very important that Michele indicated preservation of water, but I will add protect our water, right? The quality of our water, because as I indicated initially, water is life. It sustains life. It helps us to sustain our hygiene, and it helps with sanitation. So if water is dirty, right, it affects how we live. The basic amenities that we enjoy, we cannot enjoy it if our water is polluted, right? So my encouragement to the public is do not pollute your water. Protect your water. Thank you.
Great. So there you have it, folks. We've been talking about our liquid gold water, and we have been playing with you to ensure that you conserve your water and also protect your waterways from any form of pollution. So this has been The Environment Matters. I have been your moderator, Ladonna Kissoon, having a conversation with Miss Karen Watson and Miss Michele Nurse. Thank you, ladies, so much for being here and for sharing with our general public the vast of knowledge that you have. So The Environment Matters is a program that will be rebroadcasted right here on NCN. You can visit our social media pages, that's Facebook and Instagram, for the dates and time. Remember, if you have any complaint matters, issues, comments, or queries, feel free to call us. Our numbers are 225-0506, or you can send us an email. Again, this has been The Environment Matters. I've been your moderator, Ladonna Kissoon. Until next time, Guyana.
Do you have an environmental complaint? Then the Environmental Protection Agency wishes to advise that you can report an environmental complaint at the agency via one of the following. You can call our 24-hour hotline number at 225-5469, or you can drop us an email at complaints@epaguyana.org. Or you can message us on our Facebook page at EPA Guyana, or you can message us directly on Instagram at EPAGY. Please note, when submitting an environmental complaint, you would need to submit the following: name of complainant, that is the person who is making the complaint, the address of that person, a contact number, as well as the alleged polluter, a name for them, or a name of their business, their location, and the nature of the complaint. For further information, you can visit our agency's head office at Ganji Street, Sophia, or you can visit one of the regional offices to make your environmental complaint. You can visit our WIM office in the Quarantine, or our Linden office in the Lynn Building, Mackenzie, Linden. Please note that all information collected from the public will be treated with the strictest confidence. However, complainants should be willing to attend court and testify should the matter require legal action.
Attention all miners. Mining is important to Guyana's development, and so is our biodiversity. Practice smart mining. Use a retort, dispose of your waste properly, manage your tailings well, and reclaim mined out areas. Remember, improper mining is a threat to your health, biodiversity, and a hindrance to prosperity. A message from the Environmental Protection Agency and Ministry of Natural Resources with funding from JEF through the United Nations.
Miss Sonia, wait, I want to ask you something.
Oh gosh,
Morning, Miss Sonia.
Morning, Miss Cheryl. I'm late for work.
I noticed the other day y'all had a big campaign with them police officers, so shutting down them people barbecue, wedding, dance. Man, how y'all expect these people to make money and survive?
Oh, Miss Cheryl, that is far from the truth. The EPA and the Guyana Police Force are actually working together to ensure that persons who conduct certain businesses and activities are authorized. We've tried to allow them to adhere to the noise regulations.
Well, this gotta be a new law. What law is this?
These laws were always in place. It's now that we're getting all these complaints at the agency, we are trying to enforce them. The Environmental Protection Act has been in place since 1996, and it states that persons and businesses must apply for environmental authorization before operating a sound-making device.
Well, girl, I never know this thing is part of the law.
So if you're keeping a barbecue or an open-air function, like a wedding or a concert, especially in your community, right, and you're playing a music system, you have to apply for a short-term noise permit. And for persons that operate in a business and you got generators and stuff, you have to apply for a long-term permit. And that is applicable to bars and hotspots and clubs also.
Well, now that you explain it, I understand it. It's unfair to the elderly, sick people, and even them little children.
That is correct. According to the World Health Organization, loud noise can cause stress, sleep deprivation, and hearing impairment. And I'm sure you wouldn't want that.
Oh, now I understand. Thank you for explaining it, Miss Sonia.
For more information, you can contact the EPA at 225-5471 or visit our office at Ganges Street, North Sophia, Georgetown.
Are you involved in a business or thinking about starting one? Do you know there may be environmental impacts from business activities? According to the Environmental Protection Act of 1996, businesses such as gas stations, rice mills, large-scale agriculture and poultry farms, large-scale mining and forestry operations, hotels and resorts must be authorized. Persons proposing any of these activities need to submit an application for environmental authorization to the EPA.
Come around, please.
Morning. My name is Deborah. I just want to get some information.
Good morning. I am Odessa Duncan, Senior Environmental Officer. How may I assist you today?
Tell me something. They got this man next door by me breaking on this big building, and it's bare asbestos in the roof. I could remember hearing on your TV program that asbestos is dangerous to human health and the environment.
This is correct. The Environmental Protection Act states that any person or facility that is storing, treating, transporting, and or disposing of hazardous waste material must be authorized by the EPA to do so.
Oh, but it's now I'm really hearing about this hazardous waste thing. Tell me something more.
Hazardous waste are waste material with properties that are dangerous or capable of having a harmful effect on human health and the environment, including things like paint, fertilizers, and pesticides, waste oil, and asbestos. These things have the potential to cause cancer, birth defects, kidney failure, and reproductive impairment, with children being at the highest risk. The environmental authorization in this case gives the legal right to transport, store, and dispose of this material in accordance with the EP Act Chapter 2005 Laws of Guyana. Now, this ensures you and your operation and your process is safe for the environment and human health.
So you mean to tell me that all them leftover Christmas paint that I got on in my kitchen sink, I need authorization from EPA to get rid of it?
No, Miss Deborah. These items, once used for household purposes, does not require environmental authorization from the EPA. However, you should still take necessary steps to ensure that these materials are stored and disposed of in an environmentally safe manner.
Thank you so much for the information. I go in and tell he that he needs an environmental authorization. Thank you.
At the Environmental Protection Agency, we believe that the environment is everybody's business. We can start caring for our planet by becoming more environmentally friendly in our everyday actions. Here's what you can do. Dispose of waste in a garbage bin. Clean our drains, yards, and carpets regularly. Take a reusable shopping bag to the market. Support local butchers and farmers to reduce packaged waste. Plant a kitchen garden, trees and flowers. Compost your organic waste. Conserve water and electricity. Carry a reusable water bottle. These little acts are good for your health and that of the environment. Remember, healthy people work better and achieve more, and together, small actions make a big difference. For further information on how you can help, please contact the Environmental Protection Agency, EPA, Ganges Street, Sophia, or telephone us at 225-5467. You can also visit our website, epagana.org, or our Facebook and Instagram pages.